friends, when I sat down to write this speech, I realized words fail me. After all, what can I say that hasn't already been said in these last 100 days of genocide, or the 75 years preceding them? Over the past weeks, media outlets, international institutions, and NGOs have shared a myriad of data with us. Since then, numbers have gained a new meaning for me. Take the number 6, for example. 6 is the number of wars a 16-year-old Gazan had to survive to be alive today. Let that sink in. 6 wars in 16 years. Can you even call that a childhood? According to the World Food Programme, 4 out of 5 starving people in the world are in Gaza. 23 out of 36 hospitals there have been bombed. 53 health facilities destroyed. 121 ambulances attacked. 370 schools and universities reduced to dust. 455,000 homes destroyed, displacing 85% of residents in Gaza. 112 journalists have been killed in the last 3 months, which makes this the deadliest conflict ever for journalists. More deadly even than the entire Second World War. In 2023, 507 Palestinians were killed by the Israeli army and settlers in the West Bank alone. When I checked this morning, there were over 23,210 Palestinian civilians killed, 9,600 of which were children. 7,000 Palestinians are still missing under the rubble. Every day, the Israeli army kills 247 Palestinians in Gaza, 117 of which are children. By the time I finish this speech, 2 more Palestinians in Gaza will have been murdered. They say statistics are human beings with the tears wiped off. Hence, many Palestinians strive to tell the stories of their people, the mosaic forming their collective consciousness in an attempt to share their experience with us. One of these storytellers was Rifat Al-Arir, co-founder of the project We Are Not Numbers. He was killed on the 7th of December, and his death was not by accident. The Israeli army called him the day before, confirming they knew his location and threatening him. He left the refugee camp he was sheltering at to protect the people around him. Nevertheless, Israeli bombs killed him, his sister, and her children the very next day. Why would a military specifically target a poet, a writer, whose sharpest weapon was his pen? Because his words were more powerful than their bombs. In his last poem, Rifat Al-Arir writes, "If I must die, you must live to tell my story." But how can we tell his story if words have become void of meaning? These last weeks have taught us new expressions, but also numbing us for overused metaphors and vague comparisons. For example, Gaza is often described as an open-air prison. Is this a fitting description for the complete isolation of 2.2 million people by air, land, and sea? Does it transmit the terror the skies hold for Gazan children who die from heart attacks as young as 7, 5, or 4 years old? A death from unspeakable constant fear. How can someone be a refugee in their own country? And yet we know this is true for the majority of Palestinians today. Recently, I learned a new verb, to unchild. Dr. Hassan Abu Sita, a British Palestinian surgeon who volunteered at Al Ali at Al-Shifa Hospital, explained in an interview, "This is a war on children. You unchild these children so that you can commit these atrocities against them. That's how you kill 7,000 children in Gaza." For those children that survive, there's a new term, unique to Gaza, WCNSF. Have you heard of it? The acronym stands for Wounded Child, No Surviving Family. Words fail me as parents write their names on their children's limbs, as politicians only a few kilometers away from them pen messages of hate on bombs destined for those same children. In the media, some are killed, while others simply die. Terms like genocide, ethnic cleansing, and war crimes are used in sterilized sentences, strung together and parroted by the media, along with the lines, "Do you condemn?" and "What is a proportionate response?" Politicians reiterate their unconditional support in this war against civilians, while grandfathers kiss the eyes of their dead granddaughters, calling them the soul of my soul, while fathers gather what remains of their children, blasted to shreds by Western-funded bombs in plastic bags. Calls for ceasefire are being framed as anti-Semitic, while medical staff is being forced at gunpoint to leave behind premature babies. Babies born to die, decomposing in a hospital. Can you imagine a lonelier death than that of a newborn baby crying for its mother until its last breath? Every day I wake up thinking it can't get worse, but every single day so far, war crime after war crime has been the worst day. When Israeli politicians announced they would deny 2.2 million Gazans food, water, and medical aid, that was the worst day. When they bombed Al Ali Hospital, that was the worst day. When they bombed Jabalia refugee camp, that was the worst day. When we saw the images of the Nakba repeat themselves, that was the worst day. When hospital patients were buried alive by Israeli bulldozers, that was the worst day. Every day a child had to undergo amputation without anesthesia was also the worst day. Every day is the worst day, and every day introducing a new and unfamiliar pain, I secretly hope this is it. This will send an uproar around the world, which will unite us all and end this inhumanity. But after countless breaches of international law and UN resolutions, after checking every single war crime off the list, this madness still continues. This slaughter even continues while Israel is being charged for genocide at the ICJ. And yet, I remember the words of the poet Rafif Ziada. We Palestinians wake up every morning to teach the rest of the world life, sir. I'm in awe of the humanity, the compassion, the love I see in Gaza. People caring for injured animals despite the shortage of medical aid. After every explosion, men rushing to destroyed houses, pulling the injured out from under the rubble with their bare hands. Families carrying the disabled and injured for hours, leaving no one behind as the tanks push them further south. Statistics, numbers, words fail me to grasp the immensity of it all, again and again. Words are important, but words are not enough in the face of a genocide. We cannot allow Palestine to become a wordless wish, as the Irish writer Childers wrote. Educate yourself, speak up, boycott, join the protest now. We are a global movement for peace, human rights, and justice. Today, on this global day of action for Gaza, millions stand united in protest across 45 countries on 6 continents. Because no one is free until all of us are free. Human rights need to be rights for all humans, not a privilege for some. My ancestors knew what it means to be treated as lesser in their own country. And yet, the generation of my grandparents got to see an independent India. Words fail me, so I want to leave you with these lines by Mahatma Gandhi. When I despair, I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love have always won. There have been tyrants and murderers, and for a time they seem invincible, but in the end, they always fall. Think of it, always. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!